Hello HEMA friends and welcome to this new video. Today I am going to review the Läufer Longsword made by Krieger historical weapons. Here you can see the stats of this sword. As you can see, it is a knockshot type 16A inspired sword, and I say inspired mainly because of the handle, which is a bit too long, and the pommel, which I am not completely sure that it fits this type of sword. So as you can see, this type of longsword is characterized by two different blade sections which meld into each other at this point. This one is a section which is more cut oriented and this section is more thrust oriented. This sword has a very nice blade, a good point of balance and a relatively light weight. I particularly love the shape of the blade, aesthetically speaking, which is why I bought it in the first place, other than cutting stuff, of course. The finishing of the blade is quite good, and if you ask for it already sharpened, you will receive it with a decent level of sharpness, good enough to have fun cutting bottles and similar easy to cut targets. The only part which didn't came sharpened at all is the very tip of the blade. I am talking about 2 centimeters, more or less. This would otherwise not necessarily be a bad feature on a weapon of this type, considering that a reinforced thrusting tip would be a very good idea, but talking about cutting performance, you can't do tip cuts, basically. The crossguard is extremely simple with no finishing at all, basically, save for some angles. By looking at the sword in its overall shape, it doesn't look bad at all. But if you look at it in detail, it is the less refined part of this sword. The handle is well made and sturdy, even if the shape could be slightly modified to make it more handy and aesthetically pleasing, in my opinion. But more on this later. The pommel doesn't really fit the type of the sword, but is otherwise made in a good way and it feels comfortable to handle. The scabbard fits properly and it is embellished with some carvings, same is for the belt attached to it. I don't know if the suspension system is correct or not for this type of sword, but it works just fine anyway. All the other fittings of the scabbard and the belt are pretty simple and basic. The price of this sword to this day is very good. 560 euros ordering it from Krieger, or it is possible to find it at $675 on HEMA supplies. Even considering that some parts of the sword are made in a simple and basic way, I consider it a very good price for a combination of sharp sword, scabbard and suspension system all together. About how it handles, I would describe the sensation of handling it just fine. It actually remembers me some of my short feathers, just a little bit more handy. It is not impressive, neither bad performing. It's good enough to do its job. Now, funny enough, this sword could be more nimble than it actually is, and this is because of a simple motivation, which is not related with the blade shape, the weight of the weapon or the point of balance. It is related with the handle, which is too fat, or better, too wide at the point in which it connects with the crossguard. Now, this makes your actions a little bit slower simply because you tend to lose a little bit the grip when you are changing direction during fast actions. So if you want to transform a thrust into a cut, for example, you have to loosen a little bit your grip while doing so. This means that if the handle is too fat, it tends to, let's say, fly away in a certain sense from your grip. It tends to flee from your grip. So this is a little problem. It's not a major problem, but it could be fixed by just making the handle a little bit thinner. Not too much, but just a little bit, which I think it will also increase the aesthetic of the weapon. Also, another little issue with the handle is that it is a little bit too long compared to the blade, but also if compared to actual findings. Now, shortening it a little bit would be a good idea in my opinion, and also it will balance a little bit the aesthetic also of the weapon, which is very good in my opinion, so I like the aesthetic of it, but with a shorter handle it would be even better. Very good, people. I hope you enjoyed the Läufer sword. In my opinion, it is a good sword, it is a good product, especially if you want to buy a relatively cheap while quite good sword to cut bottles or tatamis or whatever, or to just train with a real sharp sword. I think is a good product which can be improved with just tiny little changings, but in the end is a very good sword for a very good price, considering especially that you receive this scabbard with it. Very good, people. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Remember to check my Patreon page. The link is in the video description if you want to support me. And as always, see you next time.